This ad is from the Senate Majority PAC, which is trying to keep Democrats in control of the U.S. Senate. It's critical of Mehmet Oz's position on abortion and features a woman who says she's a doctor. We checked, and she is a doctor in the Philadelphia area. Here's the first claim about abortion.
But Dr. Oz calls it murder.
It's still murder.
Oz said all abortions are murder.
That audio clip came from a teletown hall that Oz hosted in May during the primary campaign. NBC News obtained a recording of it. Here's more context of what Oz said.
If life starts at conception, why do you care what age the heart starts beating at? It's still murder if you were to terminate a child, whether their heart's beating or not.
We asked the Oz campaign about this quote and specifically if Oz still stands by what he said. We asked 2 times. Each time it gave us the same response about Oz's position on abortion, but it never addressed the quote. Then at a campaign event, News 8's Barbara Barr asked Oz directly about this ad and if he believes all abortions are murder. Here's his full answer.
I've been very clear on this throughout the campaign, starting in the middle of the primary. I believe, I'm pro-life, but I believe in 3 exceptions: life of the mother, rape, and incest. And I strongly believe the federal government should not be involved in dictating to states what their local healthcare systems, their local values, and the local politics should be addressing, which is this very complex issue.
Remember, the claim from the ad is that Oz said all abortions are murder. In the audio clip from the teletown hall, you heard Oz say that to him, it's still murder no matter if the child's heart is beating or not, and neither he nor his campaign disputed that he said it. So that specific claim that he said those words, we rate as true. Here's the other claim.
Now Republican senators are counting on him to pass a nationwide abortion ban. That could punish nurses and doctors like me.
This is a broad and somewhat vague claim. It's also not a claim about Oz, but rather about what other Republicans want Oz to do. When News 8 asked, the group that made the ad pointed to this C-SPAN clip from Republican Senator Lindsey Graham. He recently introduced a bill that would ban abortion after 15 weeks of pregnancy and punish doctors who perform them.
If we take back the House and the Senate, I can assure you we'll have a vote on our bill. If the Democrats are in charge, I don't know if we'll ever have a vote on our bill.
So far, 9 other Republican U.S. senators have signed on to co-sponsor the bill. That means there are Republican senators who want the bill to pass. They would need a Republican majority to do it, and Mehmet Oz winning in Pennsylvania could help them get the majority. So we find the ad's specific claim about what Republicans want Oz to do is true. But would a Senator Oz support a bill that would ban abortion like that? His campaign would not specifically answer our questions about whether Oz would vote for Senator Graham's bill. But as far as punishing doctors who perform abortions, which is part of Graham's bill, Oz said this at a news conference last month that's posted on YouTube.
I've said there should not be criminal penalties for doctors or women regarding abortion.
Oz's campaign, though, has not been direct about its position on any current or hypothetical nationwide abortion ban bill. But let's play again what Oz said on that topic at the campaign stop in Harrisburg.
And I strongly believe the federal government should not be involved in dictating to states what their local healthcare systems, their local values, and the local politics should be addressing, which is this very complex issue.
Next up, we'll be checking an ad from the Oz campaign that's critical of his Democratic opponent for U.S. Senate, John Fetterman. Many of you have asked us about the claims in that ad, so stay tuned for the Ad Watch. Matt Barcaro, WGAL News 8.